Joining me now, Hugo Lowell, senior political correspondent with The Guardian. Hello, Hugo. Good to see you. Let's talk about the growing concern among Republicans about far-right activist Laura Loomer's apparent influence on Donald Trump. You cover the Trump campaign extensively. You've been down to Mar-a-Lago, where she spent a fair amount of time. How do you interpret her presence there and then now on the campaign trail? And what do you think her relationship with Trump is all about?
The thing that the Trump campaign likes about Laura Loomer, and including some of the operatives kind of inside it, is they think she does good oppo research. You know, that's her function. She's not a paid employee of the Trump campaign for various reasons, including Susie Wiles, the current campaign chief, thinking she's a little too controversial even for the Trump campaign. But in a way, you know, the way I see Laura Loomer is she's a bit of a drug for Trump. He likes the fact that she's super loyal. He loves the fact that, you know, she will bat for him anytime he needs her to. And they do like her work product in the main. The problem with Laura Loomer's work product is that it's only right probably 80% of the time. And so the campaign finds itself in this tricky position where, you know, something like, you know, this issue of Haitian immigrants eating pets, they get sucked into this vortex, and it's difficult to extract themselves, because once you hitched your wagon to Laura Loomer's car, you're stuck with it. And this is the problem you're seeing this week.
So the way that they were taking cues on migrant lies from her, is it through social media feeds? I mean, how did that work?
It's not exactly clear what Laura Loomer's direct role was in the Haitian immigrants eating pets episode, at least. But she is one of these people who is constantly digging up a lot of this sort of material, because the campaign's message is every state is a border state, right? That's what they were trying to connect the immigrant story to. And Trump actually at the debate was supposed to pivot. They had planned this. They had planned for this immigrant story to come up, and Trump was supposed to say, hey, by the way, this is Harris's fault because Harris is the border czar. You know, the trouble with a plan is it requires the principal to execute it. And Trump got stuck on arguing with David Muir, the ABC News moderator, whether or not the story was even true. So that was part of the problem. But you know, this has come through multiple channels. And I think this is the problem that the Trump campaign now has with less than 60 days until the election, which is you have all of these outside forces with multiple entry points into Trump world. For instance, we know that Laura Loomer, and we've reported Laura Loomer is very close to Natalie Harp, who's one of the principal gatekeepers to Trump in terms of stories and social media posts. And so it may have been, and we just don't know at the moment, if Laura Loomer herself texted Trump something, or if it was one of Trump's aides who forwarded Trump something that she had tweeted or something she had dug up. But the point is there are multiple entry points to Trump. And this is the problem that a campaign formally has to deal with.
But I guess I'm wondering, why does she now show up in his entourage? She's on his plane at the debate. She's at the September 11th commemoration services this week, even though she is a 9/11 denier and conspiracy theorist, says it was an inside job. I mean, how did she rise to such prominence in his campaign? Is it directly through Donald Trump? Did he get exposure and he said, I like her, want to keep her around?
As far as we understand it, there was an introduction about a year and a half ago from one of Bannon's top lieutenants who basically introduced her to two top Trump campaign advisors, Jason Miller and Chris LaCivita. And at the time, Laura Loomer was getting sucked into doing stuff for Kanye West. If you remember, this was around the time of the Nick Fuentes dinner. And what she really wanted to do was to do oppo research for the Trump campaign. And there was a kind of a look at whether she could fulfill a more formal role. Ultimately, because she's such a bomb thrower, and I think she struggles to keep her mouth shut, this never materialized. But that was the origin story of Laura Loomer. And as for kind of her ongoing relationship with Trump, the reason why she's on the plane is in part because she's not an employee. And I think the way it's been described to me is Trump feels like, Laura, you're not part of the campaign, but we value you. So, yeah, let me repay you by, taking you on this trip, especially for the debate. It's a big moment for me, and she appreciates that.
So some of the post-debate reporting suggests that Trump's own perception of his performance is really untethered to reality. You know many close to Trump reasonably well. Is that actually how he sees it, or what he wants people to believe? Because Axios suggests Trump's inner circle lies to him. Do they have no choice but to lie to him?
I mean, I think the short answer is yes. As we reported it, when Trump came out of the room and scanned his aides and thought, how did I do? Some of them actually told him they thought it was great to his face. But it is abundantly clear at this point that even Trump's advisors know the debate performance was bad. And the tell with these guys is when they start trying to spin you in the middle of the debate. And I was fielding texts from some Trump campaign officials who were saying, like, he's not even angry. He's not yelling. Like, what debate are you watching? And I think that was the early indication that things are going off the rails. Later, privately, a number of Trump officials told me that they know that debate did not convince anyone. They see it as a colossal missed opportunity. The benefit with undecided voters, independent voters, very, very small, if at all, any benefit. And I think that's the cold, clear-eyed view that the campaign itself has. Whether or not they're telling Trump is a different story. And at this point, it may not make any difference telling Trump, because as we all know in 2020, if Trump hears stuff that he doesn't like, he just ignores it.
Yeah, true. One more quick question, because you write Republicans are also concerned that Trump's campaign has invested far fewer resources for its voter turnout operation in battleground states than previous presidential election races. What's this about? It feels like a miss for them.
Yeah, the Trump campaign has outsourced its entire ground operation effectively to a number of super PACs in battleground states, which means the Trump campaign's formal presence is really, really small. For instance, take Pennsylvania. The Trump campaign won't release numbers. Again, another tell, because when they are very proud of their numbers, they boast about them. And the only thing we could get out of the Trump campaign was, and this is the first number ever we've seen from the Trump campaign, is that's to say, oh, we have more than 50 people in Pennsylvania. That is in stark comparison to the RNC's projected goals for this cycle, which was to have 88 to 90 staffers. And it's an even starker difference compared to what the Harris campaign has on the ground in Pennsylvania, because they have 375 paid staffers, 375 versus more than 50. It is not a very good comparison. And with respect to the super PACs, the problem the Trump campaign now has is these PACs have only started spooling up in recent weeks, which means two things. Number one, all of their door knockers and canvassers have had very limited voter contacts. We know from previous cycles that it often takes multiple repeated visits to voters, even to likely supporters, to return a ballot. That's number one. Second of all, hiring this late in the race, the really good people are gone. You can't find them anymore. No one really wants to take a 2-month job. And so I think that's the problem they have.
Okay. Hugo Lowell, we'll see you again soon, my friend. Thank you much.